The information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. All information, content, and materials used in this training are for general informational purposes only and are not a determination of a particular individual's legal rights. Dissemination or sharing of the contents of this presentation is prohibited unless explicit permission is granted by the State of Michigan ADA Compliance Division. Today, we'll be using the Zoom's Q&A feature. You can ask questions anonymously. That's perfectly acceptable, and questions will be answered at the end of the session during the slide that says Q&A. Inappropriate language or conduct will not be tolerated, and offenders may be removed. We do love to answer questions, but we cannot provide any legal advice or comment on a pending case or complaint investigation that's in front of the Department of Civil Rights or Commission. If you have or need technical assistance, please contact Zoom directly for support. And we just want to remind you that this is another in a series of our upcoming sessions. Coming in October, we have October 5th, we have our opioid use disorder and disability presentation with a guest presenter from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And then October 18th, we have Get to Know Your ADA Compliance Division. And finally, we'll close out October with ADA Service Animal Basics. And with that, I will turn it over to Bill Robinson to take us into our session with Get to Know the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons.
This is Bill Robinson speaking. Thank you so much, Tyra, and thank you for this opportunity to present to the public and let the public allow them to get to know us a little bit better. I am the director of the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, and if you'll go to the next slide, we're going to do some introductions. So brief background about myself. I came to Michigan about 6 years ago, and what brought me here was working in the blindness area across the country, but also what started my journey was the accident where I lost vision in both eyes and had to have some initial medical treatment as well as some additional rehabilitation services. And then I started my own business, but then after successfully doing that, decided to move to Michigan to take the director's job. One of the things you'll hear us talk about is how important it is for individuals with that have vision loss to actually work with employers. And one of the things that is unique about my story is my employer was not a disability ready company. And so they were not very well equipped to work with me and therefore triggered my severance and let me go. So that is not what we want to see happen here in Michigan. We want every person that has a disability to have the opportunity to continue to work in their employer or in their career of their choice. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shawnice Laurie, who is one of our vocational counselors in Detroit. Shawnice.
Hi, my name is Shawnice Laurie. I am a vocational rehabilitation counselor for the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, and I currently work in the Detroit office. I am a person who is visually impaired, and I did benefit from the services of BSBP, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Leah.
Hello, my name is Leah Avant. I am a vocational rehabilitation counselor and the statewide coordinator for deafblind services. I also am a certified vision rehabilitation therapist. My journey with the agency began about 10 years ago. Interestingly enough, my best friend's sister was born legally blind, and she sought services from what then we were called the Michigan Commission for the Blind. So growing up together, I took a real interest in what she learned, how she learned, and the agencies that provided services to her. And found out that I could pursue education and employment that assisted individuals who are visually impaired. So here I am today, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
We can go to the next slide.
Okay, so we have a mission at BSBP. So our mission is to assist our customers to obtain employment, to maintain their current employment, or to regain employment. And we also want to assist them to achieve their independent living goals. And we believe that the services that we provide will assist them to be able to do that. We also have a vision, and we want Michigan to become the best state for persons who are visually impaired and blind to receive services. And we believe that the services we provide are good services for individuals who are in this population. And we want Michigan to be known as one of those places where you can go if you are blind or visually impaired and looking for great services. Next slide.
This is Leah speaking. I am going to talk about the unique barriers that those who are visually impaired, legally blind are impacted by. There are 5 of them. The first one is access. I talk about access and communication, which is the second a lot, especially when I think about deaf blindness, but blindness as well. A lot of the information that we take in is through our vision. So we lose that access visually to information, education. It changes the way that we learn things. It changes the way that we adapt to things as well. So access and communication are the first 2 barriers that I'll talk about. Education and learning is something that I did briefly touch on. Again, we have to be creative. We have to learn different learning styles, how information sticks with us now that we're not using maybe our vision or our hearing, just different ways to absorb it. And that's why we have staff that are so good at what they do, because this is essentially what we do. We figure out how to get around those barriers. We figure out how to get you the information, how to educate employers. The 4th barrier would be socialization. The first thing that someone who's visually impaired loses is their ability to drive, and that's a huge loss of independence, your ability to go places, meet up with friends, take part in some enjoyment. There's not always a bus system in your neighborhood, so you do lose a component of socialization. That is something that I know that myself and other counselors emphasize. We share information and knowledge on support groups or things that will increase socialization for our clients. And then finally, there's the isolation component. Because you're not getting out, you're not driving, you're not doing the things you once were doing, that can lead to a level of isolation as well. Next slide, please.
So our purpose, well, first of all, there are 2 agencies within the state of Michigan that provide vocational rehabilitation services. And BSP is one of those agencies. Our sister agency is Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And the services that we provide adult services. And with our adult services, we have our vocational rehabilitation program that services customers who are seeking to become employed ultimately. And then we also have our independent living program that services individuals who are over 55, who want to maintain their independence in their home and in their community. We also have our youth services, Youth Flow Vision and pre-employment transition services. Our Youth Flow Vision program services individuals from birth through the age of 13, where we are providing head-borne devices for those students to participate in their academic programs, also in some of their recreational programs such as sports within the schools. And those referrals come to us from the local education agencies. The pre-employment transition services allows us to provide the customers who are in school from 14 to the age of 26, or whenever they, some of them come out earlier than that, but we provide them with services to assist them to transition smoothly, either from secondary education to post-secondary education, or either from school to work. We also have some specialized services such as our Braille and Talking Book Library and our Business Enterprise Program. You'll learn more about our Braille Talking Book Library program a little later, but it is a program that is designed to allow individuals to have access to print and reading materials, and is not just for those who are visually impaired. Our Business Enterprise Program is a program that is designed for our customers who are blind and visually impaired to own and operate their own business in food services. And again, more information about this will come up later as well. We have instructional services that takes place at our training center in Kalamazoo. And at our training center, we provide our customers with services to help them to adjust to blindness and help them to achieve or to gain the skills or services that they're going to need to work in the workforce. We call the services for independent living, sometimes we call them personal adjustment training or skills of blindness, where they're going to get training in some core areas. And some of those areas, just to name a few, is orientation and mobility, that teaches them how to use a cane for their safety and also for independence. They will also learn some Braille. They will get computer technology that teaches them how to independently operate a computer with adaptive software applications. And then there's also some independent living stuff such as adaptive kitchen skills. And there's a lot more. Next slide.
On this slide, you're going to see a graphic that shows our non-federal and federal funding. BSBP is funded 21.3% state funding for its vocational rehabilitation program and 78.7% for federal funding. So that state funding is what we call match. And in order to draw down the federal funding, we have to have at least $1 of state funding for approximately every $4 of federal funding that we draw from the federal government. You can see here the federal structure. We're governed by grants through Rehabilitation Services Administration, and we refer to them as RSA. And RSA is embedded in the U.S. Department of Education. And within the U.S. Department of Education, there's the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. And underneath that is the RSA branch that actually gives us our grants, both for vocational rehabilitation, independent living, for older blind, and for supported employment. Next slide, please. In terms of, I often get asked this question too, where can you find the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons within the state departments? And we are located in the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. And within Labor and Economic Opportunity, there is a division called Employment and Training. And underneath Employment and Training, there are 3 agencies: Workforce Development, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. Under BSBP, we do have our executive office and our 3 divisions, which is Field Services Division, which offers all the services to individuals that we serve for independent living, older blind, youth low vision, pre-employment transition services, any kind of employment services. All that is under our Field Services Division. And then the training center is located in Kalamazoo, and it offers, as Shanice had mentioned earlier, some great adaptive living skills. And then we have our Administrative Services Division, which is also offers two of our specialized services, as well as helps keep us in line with the federal government in terms of taking care of our administration of grants, but also administrative services has the Braille and Talking Book Library underneath it, as well as the Business Enterprise Program. Next slide, please. To continue the organizational structure, we have currently, through statutory authority through the state of Michigan, the ability to hire 116 individuals to work under the Bureau of Services of Blind Persons. And then under the executive office, we have a new unit, which we refer to TIP, and that's the Training, Innovation, Policy, and Procedure Unit. And then under field services, there's 3 regions, which again, I'll mention what those field services cover, and that's vocational rehabilitation, or what individuals refer to as employment services, independent living, and youth low vision. And then we have our East region, which is Detroit, our Central region, which if you think about going from Lansing up to the Upper Peninsula, it would be Lansing, Gaylord, or Lansing, Flint, Gaylord, and then Escanaba. And then if you look to the west, it would be Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids as 2 field offices there. Underneath Field Services Division, we also have our Pre-Employment Transition Services Unit. And under that unit, we serve individuals with disabilities that are still in school. So those are our students that we work with, ages 14 to 26. And then we have our training center that I mentioned in Kalamazoo. And then we have our administrative services here again to just reemphasize Business Enterprise Program and the Braille and Talking Book Library. So next slide, please. For employment services, we offer a lot of different individualized services to help individuals obtain or retain employment. So when you're looking at that, you have to look to the individual's unique skills and strengths. You know, a lot of individuals ask, well, what do you do? How do you serve these individuals? Well, the individuals come to us, or they get a referral, or we do outreach, and they apply for services, and then they get very specialized, individualized services. So we actually work with that individual to create a plan to obtain employment. And to do that, we'll do assessments, and you can see here on the slide that we might do career exploration. We might do job training, where we're doing actually a little bit of a skill level assessment, where we're having an individual do some temporary work in a job site to see what they can accomplish. We'll do counseling throughout. We'll provide assistive technologies. So that might include a screen reader. It includes magnifiers, anything that would help somebody either utilize their residual vision or use devices without any sight at all. An individual might want to actually go to our training center and actually have more intensive services than they might receive at home. So if they do that, then at the training center, they'll go through a whole array of services to help them adapt to vision loss. And then finally, when the individual has gone through a lot of training, they may do training in addition to training in the skills of blindness. They may go into either a career and technical education institution, or they may go to college, or they may have some individual training through a community college or a skills that they're learning through an apprenticeship program. And then once they've completed that, our counselors will work with employers to actually introduce the candidate to the employer and then follow through to help that candidate apply for the position. Next slide, please. I thought it would be really great to have both Shanice and Leah talk about an individual customer success story. So I'm going to turn it over to Shanice. And Shanice, if you would talk and speak to the audience about a unique success story that you have working with one of our customers.
I have several success stories, but one of the things that we do as well is to work with individuals who are already on the job that are new to losing their vision and having that feeling that they're no longer able to do that job, and then we are able to come in and to meet with that customer and the employer and to talk about the kind of services that we offer. So I had a customer who was working at Chrysler, and he's still there today, and he started losing his vision. The condition that he had was causing him some difficulty and not able to see color. And the part of his job, he was really involved with the safety features and the stats and everything of the vehicles. And it required that he would read a lot of spreadsheets throughout the day. So we were contacted. We were able to meet with the employer, with the customer, and I was able to even bring in one of our vendors to demonstrate some of the technology that the customer could utilize. That software is Zoom Text, and we were able to go there. We were able to let the management see what this software was able to do. We were able to actually go into the parts of the plant where he would actually have to utilize this software. And the employer was really impressed. Most of the time we were meeting, I was hearing things like, we didn't know this type of software existed, or this type of thing was doable for someone who's losing vision. And so they allowed us to come in and to provide him with training that he needed to still do the job, to help him to be able to still get around the plant and to still be safe. And that was one of my success stories, because that individual is still doing good on the job. And I'm hoping that it will allow us to build a relationship with them so that they will be open to us getting other individuals employed in that particular organization. Now I'm turning over to Leah.
Hello, this is Leah speaking. As I mentioned before, with deaf blindness, it's a disability of access. So some of the unique challenges that I face is making sure employers have the education and the understanding on what an individual may be required to maintain employment. My success story, I worked with a young lady who was already employed as a janitor. Some recent vision changes. She was unable to complete the essential functions of her job, so she sought services through us. I performed the comprehensive rehabilitation assessments to determine what her needs were. I also compared that to the essential functions of her job and saw what could we work out with this employer and how can we keep this young lady employed. The benefit for me is that I am able to partner and collaborate with Helen Keller National Center, which is based in New York, even though they do have satellite offices throughout the US. And they were able to provide virtual services to help her learn the skills that she needed. And specifically thinking of skills of deaf blindness, she learned how to self-advocate. She learned and strengthened her orientation and mobility skills so she could move around her place of employment safely. She was able to make informed choices about careers in the future or jobs in the future and what would work well for her. So I would consider that a success. And interestingly enough, next month, BSBP is having their honor roll ceremony, and I am awarding that young lady for her dedication, commitment to her own success. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Leah. This is Bill Robinson speaking again. For services to business, we're really focused, as you can just have heard from both Leah and Shawnice, with not only working with the customer. When they described their customer success story, they also were talking specifically about how they were working with the business in different aspects of that. And due to our smaller size, we do have our rehabilitation counselors that actually provide that individualized support to the business. And so what they might do is a job site analysis. They could work with, as Shawnice pointed out, some technical assistance with equipment or software to help that employee or job candidate become successful. There may be work that they arrange with our Michigan Works offices through our partner at Workforce Development to help enhance assistance for our blind and visually impaired customers. And also, we also partner with our sister agency, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, when we're doing outreach to business, which we call business engagement. And that might be going into a particular business and actually having individuals that work for BSBP and MRS do some pre-planning to actually get that business what I would call disability friendly. And as I mentioned in my original story, when I was doing my introduction, if a business is not disability friendly, they can lose talent that's currently working for them, as well as miss out on great talent in the recruitment effort. Next slide, please.
This is Leah speaking. Bill, I'd also like to add that when I'm speaking with businesses, they want to help, but they're just not sure how. So a lot of it for me is providing that education and resources. So they're really willing, they just don't know where to look and where to begin. So I'll also talk about the independent living older blind services. So the eligibility for that program is that individuals must be legally blind, age 55 and older, and they are not looking to pursue employment. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I have worked with individuals who may have been 55 or who were 55, excuse me, and by the time we completed their older blind services, they were interested in returning to work, which is awesome. So some of the services that we provide include information and referral. Again, people just need that education. They need to know where to find resources. And once they have that one lead, they can take it from there, whether it be for food, for housing, for getting your prescriptions mailed or delivered to you. So we definitely provide that to our clients. We do provide rehabilitation teaching services, and that's how we determine what would assist a client to be successful. And we do that through comprehensive assessments, and it's just not a one-time assessment, it's a continual assessment to assess their needs and their progress. We provide orientation and mobility services, learning how to use the white cane. We also provide low vision services, which may look like a pair of glasses. It could look like a magnifier that will allow you to read your bills and read your prescription bottles. We also provide other adaptive aids and appliances. Interestingly enough, if you can think of it, there is probably a product that we can get that talks to you. And that's anything from watches to microwaves. The list just goes on. So we are able to provide some of those things to our clients. Daily living skills, which is really important, being able to cook, clean, know what medication you're taking, know that you're taking it on time, being able to pay your bills, identify money, things of that nature, match your clothing, do laundry. We also provide information about leisure activities. So that may look like peer support groups, that may look like adapted games. I'm working with a client right now. We're looking for some of her favorite games, which is Uno, and I actually cannot wait to play a game with her when she first gets them. It looks like large print playing cards. We also do adjustment counseling, just so clients know that they're seen and they're heard, and we're walking through this process with them as they adjust to vision loss. And then we teach Braille and other communication methods as well. Next slide, please. We deliver services to our clients through home visits. We actually meet them where they are. And that allows the client to be comfortable. It allows us to look at them and observe them in their home environment and make adjustments and recommendations as we see fit. We also partner with community partners such as Centers for Independent Living. A client may have some questions about adaptive computer technology, and the Centers for Independent Living could potentially have that technology and are running classes, so we can refer them and collaborate with those community partners as well. Next slide, please.
I'm going to ask, this Bill Robinson speaking, I'm going to ask Leah and Shawnice to keep their cameras on. We're going to do this one as a panel. So Shawnice, thank you. So I love talking about our training center because it's so unique. Michigan is only one of 8 states that has a training center for vocational rehabilitation and independent living skills. So it's really a great asset to the state of Michigan and really quite helpful to our customers that we serve. In terms of what to expect when individuals come to the training center, sometimes, and I can speak to this, having lost vision early in the prime of my career, you end up having this fear and sometimes a loss of hope in that you don't really know what you don't know, and that you don't know what you're going to be able to do and how you're going to be able to perform as an individual who has lost their sight. So one of the things I always like to do going down to the training center is I like to talk to the individuals there and talk to them about hope and what they can accomplish, and not to set any barriers for themselves, because if you set those barriers, then those barriers being set by yourself will prevent you from being successful. And so that training center often starts with a process of an individual really doing a discovery of what is possible for them and being in a cohort with other individuals, learning from each other about what's possible for each other and encouraging each other, as well as our staff there does a great job of both talking about how individuals can succeed, meeting them where they are, lifting them up, making sure that they've got the right skills to go through the rest of their lives, whether it's an independent living goal where they just want to live independently in their home and be productive in their community, or whether they actually want to seek employment and go out and be productive in the job or the workplace. So I'd like Leah to talk a little bit about some of the things that, and I think you touched on this a little bit in the independent living slide, Leah, but some of the things that you've seen clients receive through our training center in terms of skill sets.
Oh, this is Leah speaking. Absolutely. So the biggest thing that I've seen clients receive is self-advocacy skills. That is huge, and our training center definitely prepares our clients to self-advocate no matter the environment. I've also seen them learn independent living skills, which is similar to what I talked about with the independent living program. So just that daily care of yourself, the cooking, the cleaning, the waking up, the laundry, just things of that nature. The interesting thing too is that some of my clients who have attended the training center have also participated in work experiences while they were there. So learning those job readiness skills, learning about their own work tolerance, what they can do, what they may have to scale back on or look at things differently. Also, we have a wonderful career counselor who works with them so they learn their interests and they're more confident in talking about the things that they enjoy and the things that they maybe not so much enjoy. So those are a lot of the skills that I see clients returning with. Self-advocacy and that confidence is huge, coupled with daily living skills and readiness for employment.
Thank you. This is Bill speaking again. And Shawnee, maybe you can add to that and talk about what your experience has been with your customers going to the training center, and maybe speak to some of the students that you've sent there for summer programs.
Yes, so I just wanted to add to some of the things that Leah mentioned. So I agree that the self-advocacy skills that they gain, they can't be described. Sometimes when you start with the customer, the family or someone is kind of making decisions for them. And then when they come to the training center, they build confidence just with some of the beginning skills that they are learning. And then they're able to learn more awareness about themselves in terms of what they want to do, what their interests are, what their abilities are. And then they start taking over and deciding, no, this is not what I want to do, or this is what I want to do. So with regards to the type of customer or the customers that I refer to the training center, if my customers have no barriers that would be preventing them from going to the training center, I refer them all. Sometimes they can't go. Some of them are, they have families and they have small children. But if there's any way possible for them to go to the training center, I talk to all of them about it. And I let them know that even if it's something that they can't do at the beginning, that they can always go maybe later to receive services. And one of the main reasons why I talk so much about the training center to the customers, because most of my customers they're the only person in their family who is blind or visually impaired. And so most of the time they're dealing with it, and they say that their family or nobody understands what it's like to be them or to go through what they're going through. And so when they go to the training center, it kind of evens the playing field, because every person there, every customer there has a visual impairment. And I explain that to them, and I say, everybody may not have the same visual impairment or the cause of blindness, but everybody there is visually impaired. And so when my customers do go to the training center, immediately I'm getting phone calls. They're making friends. And sometimes those friendships last way past the training center, where when they come home, they find out, when they were there, they found out that someone lived in their same area. And then when they get back to their home area, those friendships continue to flourish. Just recently, I found out I have a group of students there now, and I found out that they're all getting together and they're going out within the community where the training center is located. And they're doing things like going to the gym, and they're going out to, do their shopping together. And so going to the training center has caused my customers to minimize their dependence on other individuals in their families. And so when they get back home, they're not relying on others to cook for them or to, do some of the functions of daily living, because they've gained the skills at the training center and they now know how to do some of those things for themselves.
Thank you both. This is Bill Robinson speaking. Those are such great examples. And I love the fact that the students are getting together. The training center, if we haven't mentioned already, is 24/7. And it's a residential facility. So if the students or adults are attending, they're actually attending in dorm rooms, and they just simply walk from their dorm rooms to the instructional classes. And there's a bus line that runs in front of the training center. So as Shanice mentioned, individuals there can easily, after hours or on the weekend, go with permissions, go out and do their shopping, or actually go out and do some socializing together as well. So it's really, as I mentioned before, a great asset to the state of Michigan. Next slide, please.
And Bill, if I could just mention
Go
one
ahead,
more
Brooke.
thing before you start this slide.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that one of the other great things about the training center is that I'm the home counselor, and my customer gets assigned to a center counselor, so that we're all, trying to assist this customer together so that when they get back home as a home counselor, I'm able to continue those services that they learned while they were at the training center. So it's no gap in the services that they're receiving. I just wanted to mention that.
Yes, Bill Robinson speaking. That's a great point, Shawnice, and it shows how we work as a team throughout the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. Next slide, please.
This is Leah speaking, and now we're going to spend some time talking about services to youth. We have an awesome program, which we call our Youth Low Vision program, that provides services to students birth to 13. They just have to be enrolled in a qualified educational program, which could also include a homeschool, alternative school, or an online school. We connect with that school district and we set those students up for what we call a youth low vision evaluation, where they see an eye doctor and they are assessed and evaluated, and then recommendations are provided to services for the blind, and we will purchase head-borne devices. This is extremely important because, as I talked about before, vision can impact one's education. It can limit their ability to develop physically and socially. So this is why this program is so important. And this is why I love my agency and what we do. We like to capture those students when they're young and start getting intervention and support services to them. We also work with some of the best Michigan eye care professionals and low vision professionals who recommend very appropriate devices. That team of professionals is also willing to speak with our counselors to help us interpret any documentation that may have been provided. They also introduce new adaptive equipment and explain how it works and functions. So we have a better understanding of what we're actually dispensing to our students as well. Next slide, please.
On this next slide, I would like to invite Leah and Shawnice to turn their cameras on again, and we'll take this one as a panel. This slide talks about our pre-employment transition services, which is really just a fancy way of saying we help youth that are in school ages 14 to 26 with specific services to help them get ready for post-secondary outcomes, whether that's going to community college, or going straight into employment or an apprenticeship. So in this slide, it lists some of the services and things that we do with our students. One of the things I will say is this is one of the favorite things I think that we get to do is work with young people. And we complement those services that the schools are already providing through the expanded core curriculum, which is another fancy term to say the schools work with individual students that are blind, and they actually help them with some orientation and mobility skills, which is your white cane skills. They may do a little bit of Braille instruction, but we're trying to fill in the gaps to help those students get ready for employment and have that kind of mindset that they can go on and achieve a great career goal or career path after they graduate high school. So I'd like to ask Shawnice to start first and talk a little bit about some of her favorite pre-employment transition services events that have happened in the Detroit area and some of the ways that they've helped students in the greater Detroit area.
Yes, this is Shani speaking again. And I want to speak first about the one that just recently happened this past summer. It's called Earn and Learn. And it is a summer program where we provide some work experiences for youth So initially, we are asking them what are some of the areas of work that they're interested in, and we try to match them up with employers where they can work in the areas of their choice. But along with that, built into this program is a weekly meeting where we get to speak with the students, speak with the customers about, how things are going, so that they can talk about, some of the things that they're encountering on their work experiences. It has turned out to be a great program. This is our second year doing it. We've actually opened it up to other counties. And some of the customers in the program, they've not ever had a job. So this is allowing them to get some work experience. But what's important for me is that, my customers also understand, or get some work experience so they can understand this is, what I want to do, but it's also important that they understand what they don't want to do. So it gives us the opportunity to let them try out a lot of different areas or work areas so that they can get to know themselves. They are learning a lot of awareness skills about themselves, things that they thought they liked after they're doing some of the work experiences. Then they're starting to say, you know what, I don't think I want to do this. And then another program I just briefly want to mention, we had a program where we incorporated some orientation and mobility skills, where we took a group of students and they took the train from here to the training center so they can do a tour. And then they went to Western Michigan University. They can go there and find out about disability services and what's offered there. But that particular program was building a lot in the students, because some of them, each person had to take a part of the trip and work out the instructions of this is what we're going to do first. And so what the orientation mobility instructors did, the person that needed strengthening in a particular area, that particular part of the trip is what they were assigned to do. And it gave the students confidence. None of the parents went. So when the students came back home, they were bragging to their parents about all these things that they were able to accomplish that they didn't think that they were able to do. And I think it really built confidence in them so that they now can try other things.
Thank you so much, Shanice. And Leah?
I think one of the programs that I attended this year was the Transitions and Training Program. And seeing the students on day one versus the end of the program was just amazing. They all come in very shy, very timid, not knowing anyone, afraid to speak up, afraid to ask questions. And seeing them at the end, it makes you proud. It makes you want to cry. Those students learned all about the ADA, how to ask for accommodations, how to self-advocate. If you cannot tell, I'm a huge self-advocate fan. I love when my students know how to speak up and ask for what they need and do so with confidence. Those students were able to tour Brody, which is one of the biggest dining halls on Michigan State's campus. And they really enjoyed that. They really enjoyed being there with other college students. And then in the end of the program, they had a special treat where they were actually able to go out to a ranch and feed, pet, and ride horses. So watching the enjoyment on their faces after a long 4 days of hard work and finally reaping the fruits of that and just being outside and enjoying nature and the horses is just wonderful. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
I think there were two questions. Okay.
Thank you so much. For me, what I want to point out is how we often work with some other partners and, especially Michigan Department of Education Low Incident Outreach. This past March, we did 3 days of intensive seminars for both our staff and for education staff to learn more about how to work with students. We brought in a nationally renowned individual to come speak and help us learn how to serve students better. And then one of those days, we did a career services event where we actually had a number of our clients as well as a number of employers come in and speak to students and families about their career path, if it was someone we had served, or as an employer, what the employer was looking for, so that these students could understand, what we're helping them with actually translates into the ability to interview and obtain a good paying job or career. And then on the last day, we did some family engagement where we had families specifically educated on our services and how the schools work. And then we also did another follow-up in April where we had been going throughout the year through Zoom and working with students in terms of what we called a financial literacy program. We called it Money, 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 and it was great. And we had a lot of speakers on Zoom, and that culminated in an in-person actual activity where students and families came together. And while the students actually played a game of life where they got to choose a career and they got to see what amount of money that particular career was going to pay, and then they got to draw and roll dice to see if they had children or if they were married or if they had certain types of debt, and they went through and they were able to budget and learn all about what that looked like. Meanwhile, I was over in the parents section and we were learning all about benefits, planning, and counseling, which is really important for individuals with disabilities. A lot of times they're receiving Social Security disability income or SSI, which is another form of disability income. And sometimes there's a fear of losing that money. And so we brought in an expert, talked to the parents about how their students could work, what they needed to do to make sure that the students retain benefits. There were certain things that they had to do as parents and as students at certain times when they reached 18 and when they reached, I think another milestone was in their 20s or early 20s. And so this was all very, very informative and a great opportunity to not only work with students, but work with the families as well. And there was so much great feedback from the families on that. Next slide, please.
This is Leah speaking. I am going to talk about the Braille and Talking Book Library, which is also known as BTBL. That lends audio and Braille books to Michigan residents who are unable to comfortably read print material. And that may be due to a visual disability, a physical disability, such as not being able to hold the book, or a reading disability, such as dyslexia, There are more than 125,000 books in the collection. And the neatest thing is that it's all done through the mail service. A patron would never have to leave their home and go to the library. So once a request is made to sign up for services, the patron is mailed a talking book player, which is really unique because when there's no book in the player, all of the directions are right there on the device. So they're able to walk themselves through it. Our staff will, of course, help, but all of the directions are right there as well. And then following the mailing of the talking book player, the client will begin to receive the books via mail as well. We also have what we call BARD, which is Braille and Audio Reading Download, and that is the app. So some may consider it the same as Audible, where you download books straight to your phone or to your device. But that is also free, unlike Audible. I know that when I previously worked solely in the independent living program, and now it's a little different now that I'm a deafblind counselor, but I know that the talking books were very popular amongst our clients who were 55 and older. Everyone I met wanted to sign up and they wanted a consistent flow of books coming and they really enjoyed it. So Applications for the BTBL services can be found on our website at michigan.gov/BTBL. Next slide, please.
One of the very unique programs, and this is Bill speaking again, is what we call our Business Enterprise Program. And the Business Enterprise Program is authorized through the Randolph-Shepard Act. And this act goes all the way to 1936, and it was one of the first programs for the blind. And what this act allows blind individuals to do is to have a priority, what we call a priority, to open a vending machine or snack bar, or a combination of vending machines and snack bars, cafeterias, what we call micro markets within state and federal buildings. And so that priority gives them the exclusive right to operate those facilities. You may be familiar when you stop on a rest area, going into the rest area and seeing a lot of vending machines. Those vending machines are actually supporting a blind entrepreneur who has gone through our vocational rehabilitation program, gone through training at the training center and through BEP to become a business enterprise program operator of a vending facility route on the highway or within a building. So when you're buying candy or pop out of those machines, you're actually supporting a blind entrepreneur. It's a great program. We do a lot of work. We've got 40 individuals throughout the state that operate those vending machines and sites. One of the real setbacks for us during the pandemic was the loss of a lot of traffic on the highways, as well as loss of foot traffic in buildings. However, the Business Enterprise Program never shut down during the whole pandemic. We had operators out there stocking those vending machines to make sure the truckers that were delivering goods while no one else was traveling had a place for coffee, to grab a candy bar, pop along their routes, and that for those individuals that were essentially required to show up in the state buildings or federal buildings, that those individuals had the opportunity to have food or snacks. Next slide, please. Bill Robinson speaking. I will turn it over to Tyra at this point to see if we have any questions, which we're happy to entertain.
This is Tyra speaking. Thank you, Bill. Yes, there are some. Okay. Why was the agency's name changed from Michigan Commission for the Blind to Bureau of Services for Blind Persons?
Well, it's a good question. In 2012, there was an executive order where the governor moved us to a different department. And through that move, our name was changed from Michigan Commission for the Blind to Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. It is a mouthful to say Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. So often when you call one of our offices, we may just say Michigan Blind.
Okay, this is Tyra again. If you do have any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to put them in the Q&A and we will read them, and they can be anonymous. Can you talk about if you charge any money for the services that you talked about today, including the vocational, the training school?
We are a federally funded program, and we don't charge customers eligible for services for our services. However, we do have a rule under the federal government where we're the payer of last resort. And what that means, for instance, if we're sponsoring a student through college and they're able to get a scholarship through the college, then we'll offset that scholarship against what we might pay to support that individual. Likewise, if the individual is in need of some other service, but there's another payor for that service, then they would pay that first before we would contribute to those services.
This is Tyra. Thank you. And someone mentioned the honor roll ceremony. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. We've actually changed the name to Excellence Awards. And the historic name has been Honor Roll. That's going to be October 14th, and I believe it starts at 9:30 a.m. You can find information for registration, I believe, on our website. If it's not there, it should be there shortly. I know that we're arranging for a Zoom virtual conference for that again this year. That actually, we had done that in person before, but we found that Zoom allows many of our customers who are unable to travel to Lansing to participate. So we're really excited about that. It's usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours of awards that where we'll award customers. And I think Leah mentioned that one of her customers was nominated. We'll have our counselors nominate employers, community partners, and customers to receive recognition throughout the state. It's really a great program. The governor comes on, as well as our department director and our deputy director that's over the ENT, or Employment and Training Division, under which we're organized.
Thank you for answering that. And there was just one question for MDCR. Where can we find the Zoom info for the programs of MDCR in October you mentioned? So those, I believe they are in, I believe, and Caitlin can correct me if I'm wrong, the link, there are links to them in the slides above. And we will also be advertising that as well. And if you do want to attend, you can email us directly and we can send you the flyers. That's all. This is Tyra. This all the questions that we have right now. If you have any more questions, we'll keep it open for just a minute. If not, we will go ahead and close it out. I'll just wait a minute to see if there are any more that come up.
And while we're waiting, this is Bill. I would like to say thank you again, Tyra, for you and your team for hosting this. We thoroughly enjoyed presenting, and we hope this was very informative.
This is Tyra. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and expertise. And looks like that's all we have for today. And thank you everyone for joining us, for our accommodation providers as well. And we will be, as I said, advertising the flyer for the October sessions shortly. And we will provide links to those to anyone who's interested if you just reach out to us. Thank you very much and have a great day.